to the first episode of the weekly wind down Unplugged. All right. So if you're wondering what unplugged means, it means that these kind of things are going to happen. It's not my structured regular fall and spring season show. It is unplugged. We are on site in my office, and we are going to do an episode where we are talking. This episode and even the show, we'll be talking to. I'll be talking to people. We'll be talking about subjects that I probably wouldn't tackle on the regular show just because of how I want to say, because of the structure of that show. This unplugged show or spinoff is what I'm calling it, is unplugged. I am talking about subject matter that is maybe a little touchy for some people. I am dealing with talking to people sometime that may be a little touchy for some people, but the goal is still the same goal: to have real conversation for real growth. And we are definitely, well, I'm a real woman. Sometime I'm going to have men on the show, so I'm not going to say it's real women, real talk, real growth. But I'm a real woman. I'm going to have real people on the show for real talk and real growth. So, as I always say, it's the weekly wine, WINE, down. We're live. It's 12 noon. It's lunchtime where I'm at, but it is 5 o'clock somewhere. So that being the case, I am sipping on my glass of, my sippy cup that my daughter bought me for Mother's Day, sippy wine cup. So I'm going to sip. Excuse me. While I do that, I'm going to also try to adjust the lighting just a little bit. And definitely, just first of all, introduce who I'm going to have on as a guest today. My guest, her name is, it says it in the title, but her name is Miss Shawn Stevenson. Miss Shawn, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on us. I actually was her daughter's middle school. Well, in Chicago, we're in Chicago. In Chicago, they call it elementary school. So I was her daughter's elementary school teacher, or substitute teacher. Started out as a substitute, and I was young, and so a lot of the girls attached to me. Of course, I think it's very important to have people who are young in the school system these days, working with the kids, because they can a little bit relate a little more to what's going on right now. Times have changed, and so that's what the case was in that situation. I think it's over 20 something years ago now, but we definitely met through her daughter, Shantae. So her name is Shawn, and her daughter's name is Shantae. And we became close. Me and Shantae ended up becoming business partners in a salon together. And so Miss Shawn has been in my life for, I'm going to be honest, it's been approximately for 27 years now. Going on 27 years. So Miss Shawn she asked me, once she saw a few episodes of the show, and she saw that, of course, I always stress that the weekly wind down is a safe place. So she asked me basically, could she come on and be a guest on the show? Now, she's in Chicago. I am in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So what I will be doing is bringing her in via Skype for me to interview her and to talk to her. But she wanted the opportunity to share her story, share some of the things that, she's been going through and that she's went through in life. If you see the title, you can see some of the subject matter we'll be talking about. I don't really want to, tell her story for her. So I'm going to let her do all of that, but we're going to talk. And in doing so, it is freeing, especially when you are for me, even at 48 years old, when you are over the age of 40, I feel like, and you grew up, if you grown up in a black household, you know, in black households, they always say, what happens in this house stays in this house. Um, a lot of things happen. A lot of situations happen with children that the children are never allowed to really talk about with anyone, and they carry that damage, they carry that baggage with them into adulthood, and it affects how they interact with people as well as a lot in their life and their relationships. And so Miss Shawn is I know she's over 60, and she has been holding on to a lot of secrets about things that have went on in her life, that she feels and knows that holding on to them and not worrying about other people's feelings and how something is going to hurt someone else can cause you to damage yourself. And she's like I said, a great woman. She's a singer. She raised her two children on her own. She has an older son that's older than Shantae. His name is Quincy. She raised them on her own. She's a fabulous singer. She's a businesswoman, and she's married right now as well to her wonderful husband, Ron. And so Miss Shawn felt like at this time and at this point in her life, for her to go into the next phase of her life, she didn't want to carry the baggage with her anymore. She didn't want to carry the baggage of secrets, worrying about what someone else is going to feel or think about you sharing your truth. And if you've watched the show, just a regular show, that's my thing. I always say, no one can tell you how to tell your story, and no one should be able to tell you what not to say about what's went on in your life. Myself, I have some tumultuous relationships in my own family because I won't, and I never have kept a secret. If I don't like something, if something happened to somebody, myself, my family member, I don't like it, I'm talking about it, especially if it happened to me. If it happened to me, it's my life, my situation, and I can share it and talk to anybody that I want to about it. Because I am a firm believer that when you let stuff go, you also allow it to let go of you. When you are holding in things and holding in secrets, it affects so much of who you are and how you can move forward. It affects your mental, it affects your physical, and you don't have to do that, and you shouldn't do that. And if someone loves you, they should not want you to be doing something that will destroy you from the inside and who you portray on the outside. So we're going to definitely, Miss Shawn is going to be calling in here onto a Skype in about the next minute or so. So I definitely wanted to just welcome everybody again to the show. I'm sorry. Welcome everybody again to the show. And just have you understand what this episode is going to be about. I hope that you continue tuning in. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe to the channel. We'll be doing these Unplugged episodes throughout the summer, as well as my weekly grind down. Okay, Miss Shawn is calling in now. All right. So I have Miss Shawn Faye. Are you there? Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change my scene really quickly. Just so, and let me kind of make some adjustments. So, Miss Shawn, I wanted to first, I told everybody a little bit about you. Just my experience with you and how I know you and why I even decided to make you a guest on the show today. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to, first of all, welcome you to the weekly wind down. It's Unplugged.
Thank you.
I'm calling it Unplugged because, like me and you discussed prior, we are going to talk candidly. We are going to express our feelings from both ends in regards to what you're feeling about our conversation, what I'm feeling about our conversation, as well as experiences that we have went through, because we know that um, the bottom line is that we will people will do better and grow from the sharing of other people's experiences and testimonies. There are some people who are not brave enough to talk about the things that they have experienced in life, and it's tearing them up on the inside. And the more and the longer you hold stuff in, the more it eats away at you. And life is meant to be lived and to be enjoyed. And you can't live it and enjoy it the way that you should if you are not living an honest, true life to yourself. So again, welcome. Uh,
Thank you.
you're welcome. And tell me a little bit about yourself, please.
Well, first and foremost, I am a wife, a mother, and a grandmother of 6 children. Oh, it's a habit of me saying six because I lost one grandchild just recently. So is still sick. She's just not presently with us. She's in our spirit. And I'm an entrepreneur.
I don't mean to interrupt and stop you, but I definitely want you to kind of share with the audience how you lost. Because how old was your granddaughter that you lost?
19 years old.
Okay, so 19 is a very, very young age. She wasn't murdered or anything like that, correct?
No, she contracted, um, it's called meningitis, tuberculosis meningitis, and from her roommate, and it went unattended because they assumed she has asthma.
Okay.
So when she complained about having chest pains, they just assumed it wasn't until they took her to the hospital, and it must have resonated in her for some time. By the time they did discover it.
Oh, okay. And it just, was it quick? And then I'm going to ask you to share because
Well,
do you know?
I won't say it was quick. I think she, from what the conversation with the doctors and nurses, she actually had this for some time. It was probably her visit traveling back to Illinois sometime last March.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, and not being treated, in the time when it was started to discover, like September, it was well filled. Her lungs was filled with the virus.
Okay. And do you know did she have any symptoms that they were not say ignoring, but they thought it was nothing? Or it was something?
It was pretty much the wheezing, the symptoms of asthma.
So something like asthma. Okay. All right. And I said, this show is to help people at the same time have a little bit, laugh a little, be honest. And I definitely, I'm sure there are people walking around assuming, oh, she's just having, that's her asthma, or that's her, and we now know that it could be something as serious as meningitis. So I definitely wanted to share that with the viewers so that
I recommend when you have college kids to have them go to the doctor. Okay. Just to check. Don't just assume it's just a cold or asthma or anything, because there's a lot of young people, especially in college, are coming up with these diseases, especially tuberculosis. I mean, it's almost, and they're keeping it quiet, but to me, I'm feeling that it's starting to be an epidemic.
Okay. Well, okay, I know we kind of jumped off, but I just definitely wanted to share that with you. I want to send my condolences again. I've sent them, I know, a lot of times, but again, I send my condolences on you losing your granddaughter. Okay, but you can go ahead and finish telling a little bit about yourself.
I am an executive with a trucking company that I own. It's called Point to Point Transportation. And I'm also an executive with Wakanda. And what we do is help people establish multi-streams of income.
Okay. All right, so you're a businesswoman. You got that black woman magic. I ain't gonna say black girl magic. You got that black woman magic going on.
Yes.
All right. Well, I do want to go ahead and get into it and ask, uh, what what made you ask to be on the show or feel comfortable enough with me having you on the show to talk today?
Well, one of the things that I had noticed about myself is that I've been trying to come to grips with a few things that occurred in my life. One was the finding out that I was adopted.
Okay.
And I actually found out I was adopted at 36 years old.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause. Remember where you
Okay.
at? 36 years old. Okay, so were you so you through the entire time growing up, did you grow up with a mom and a dad, or was it just the mom, or was it just the dad, or what was the household like?
Um, I actually grew up with my dad in the home until I would say about 8 or 9 years old.
Okay, so it was a
So
two-parent home, and
yeah,
you grew up there believing that both of them were your biological parents.
yes.
Okay, okay, so we're gonna go so fast. So go ahead and so you said you found out that you were at 36. Go ahead.
I found out I was adopted at 36 years old. It pretty much it kind of destroyed me a little bit.
How did you find out?
From a relative when my mom passed away.
Okay.
My mom passed away, and I believe it was maybe less than 2 or 3 weeks after, and a cousin decided that she was going to tell that not only was myself adopted, but my brother as well.
And because I know how families can be, was it a nice telling you, or was it in a negative way telling you?
You know what? She had been drinking.
Okay.
So we were conversating. So I believe that, I don't know if it was malicious to tell me, but at the end of the day, our conversation was basically she had a book that had the history of the family, and it goes back 100 years. That's how this conversation led up. And then, of course, she said, when your mom was very devastated when they took Andre away from her. She had a nervous breakdown, and I was questioning, why would take Andre away from where? You know, she said the mother wanted her child back. So, of course, at that time, that opened up that door for me to say, so are you saying, was he adopted? She said the adoption didn't go fully. You know, it wasn't complete. That's why she was able to get her child back.
So he was a foster child. He was a foster child.
In the process
of adoption. Okay.
The process of adoption. So you get to, at that particular time, you can actually have the child in the home, I believe, because I'll tell you the reason why that in a moment. But after that happened, my question was, so was I adopted?
Was Andre your biological brother, or you don't know at this time?
No.
Okay. All right.
And she said, Shawn, we have to talk. And I'm like, we're talking now. So with the few more keep asking her, she said, Shawn, you were adopted. So immediately I get off the phone. I told her I'd call you back. And I got on the phone and called some relatives. And of course, they denied it.
Okay.
So, make a long story short, eventually one relative did come over, drove, and told me the truth. Because I was in a frenzy. You know, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I'm 36 years old, a mother of two. My kids were almost teenagers to receive that kind of news. So it ended up being very true, and it was different stories, going from different stories to different stories. And my uncle was my dad, and
Oh, Lord.
oh yeah, so my son Quincy said, "Mom, you need to know the truth." So I did the search.
Okay.
Actually I applied for. They just actually my birth certificate, because I was born in '59, was closed.
Okay.
So they had opened it up, and I applied for my original birth certificate, which would have my biological mother's name on it. I Googled her. I found her less than 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Then I applied for one of those websites. You search for someone to give you the phone number, the address, and I found her. I called her.
Okay. Let me before you get to where you reached out to your mom. Let me kind of go into from birth to the 30s to 36, where you believe that you are the biological child of your parents at the time. Okay. Did you ever feel like you were being treated different? Did anything like happen? Like I'm I'm a foster parent as well as an adoptive parent, and I am I call it a champion child of sexual abuse and child abuse, because myself, I for about 3 to 4 years of my life was in a foster parenting type of situation where a couple times I lived with someone who we really didn't know, and then the bulk of it was with a family member, but it was still was not living with my mother. And I know everyone in regards to that family, who were family or the extended family of my uncle, because it was my uncle and my aunt, they were great, treated me kind, treated me fairly, but there were people outside of that family, but were friends and stuff, who I feel like knew that I wasn't their child or wasn't a child, and I was treated, I just be honest, I was molested, and then as a former foster parent and adoptive parent, I have had children who, were sent to me because the homes that they were placed in, they were abused and sexually abused. So I'm not gonna say I don't mean to be all in your business, but because I kind of do, in a sense. But I want you to, speak whatever is comfortable. I just want to know, did you experience anything within that time frame that would have made you think, but you kind of just, I'm gonna say ignored it, but figured it was just a normal circumstance?
Okay, so let me say this first. My parents loved me.
Right. Yep.
I was definitely loved. My mother, which it was not my biological mother, but she was my mother, and she definitely loved me. She wanted to have children. In the course of between the time I was placed in a home at 6 months,
Okay.
My mother and father got a divorce.
Okay.
And she remarried.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay. So, of course, I believe that my mother discussed that I was not her biological child.
Okay.
My stepfather um, was maybe 15 years older than me.
Oh, okay.
And at 6 years old till I was 12, I was sexually abused by him.
Really?
Um, for a long time, um, I had learned to dismiss it out of my memory. You know, when something severe that can occur in a person's life, they deal with it the best way they know how. I'm dealing with it as a 6-year-old with a 6-year-old mind. So I learned to act as if it didn't happen because I didn't want to hurt my mom.
Was he just touching you with his hands, or was he fully physical with you? Did he threaten you not to tell?
It was fondling.
Okay.
No penetration.
Right. That's the same with me too.
Just fondling, which it still wasn't right.
Yeah. It still ain't right because it screws you up. I'm gonna, hopefully make you feel a little more comfortable. That's the same thing with me. And I was 9 years old. It happened one time because I was 9 and I was being raised at the time prior by my single mom and having to be very, very independent and taught by, I lived with my babysitter for probably the first 8, 9 years of my life, and she had 4 sons. So I was taught by them to be very, very tough. So when I got in a situation where something happened to me that I knew wasn't right, I said something immediately, but it didn't stop that one time, that effect of that happening. And what he did was stick his whole hand inside of my little vagina. And that harshness, that roughness at the time, I think, like you saying, I kind of put it back in my mind. Like I guess I didn't think it happened, or maybe it didn't happen, but I knew as I got older, and I, you start your girl, you start, liking boys, and you start, possibly thinking about sex. But I thought about it. I had the attractions, but I didn't want to do it, and I didn't understand. And I would go to, you're 18, 19, you start going and seeing your gynecologist. And I would be so tense and so just like I was probably the worst patient ever, and I did not understand. It was as soon as she would, put your feet in the stirrups, when she would go, my body would naturally tense up. And I think it was till I was about 19, 20 years old. I didn't understand what it was. I finally had my first, what I wanted, sexual encounter when I was 18 years old, but it was also just an intense, nervous situation to where I was like, but I want to do this. Why am I acting like this? And so I finally, about 2 years, I said to my mom, I was like, Mom, something must have happened to me when I was young, because I don't like anything rough to go down there. And she was like, what you mean? So I said it again. And she was like, well, you don't remember you called me when you were 9 years old and told me that this man, which was a family friend to my aunt, put his hand in, and I was like, no. And then if you know me, so I kind of deal with everything kind of laughing. When I'm scared, or if I'm nervous, or if I'm unsure, I kind of laugh or make a joke. And so I said then, I was like, that explains it then. I was like, that's why I was like, well, I could probably go on a talk show or something, share my story. But I was just trying to laugh. But I had literally put it in the back of my mind till then at 20 years old. So you can go ahead. If I just wanted to, let you know you
Here's
ain't
the
by
thing
yourself.
about that. As you grow older, for speaking for myself, as I grew older, I had, I want, I at that moment, at that time when that incident happened, I became withdrawn,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I found an outlet to express myself,
Okay.
and that was writing and singing. To the point where I would select songs because I would select certain songs because I wanted my dad. I wanted my dad back. I wanted to tell him, but I was afraid. And it took a long time. And it was just recently. I was over in Germany performing. I could not even remember the first night. That's how good I got to not remember the physical part of the touching, the fear. I always had the fear, but I never could relate it to what it was. See, that's the funny thing about this. The first time that happened, I discovered that emotion of fear, which I shouldn't have had at that particular time, because when that fear traveled with me all through my life, because I never was able to place it, conquer it. I could conquer it. The only way you could conquer it is go to the core of where it started at. So, with that being said, like I said, I was in Germany, and they don't have lights on. It was the twinkle of a light, a candle that I put on the window, and it trickled my memory to go back to exactly the first night. I was with another vocalist, and I just screamed, and how all those emotions that I suppressed, came out. I was angry. I mean, I was so angry. If that man was standing right here, he would probably be hurt.
Is he alive?
No, he's deceased now. But to come to find out, and the reason why I wanted to share, because I was not the only person. And I'm not going to call myself a victim. I'm a
Exactly.
survivor.
Yes.
But he managed to turn several family members and family members' friends' children. Now their outcome may not be my outcome, but it was at least six other young ladies that were, I don't want to say touched, but experienced that, because it's hard. It's really still hard for me to talk about it because I'm choking up now. And that's the part that I'm working on. But when I talk with them, or I get a message, what he did to them. You know, some of them didn't, actually grow to have a productive, or what we would say a normal life. They got into drugs, prostitution, homosexuality. They decide they wanted to be a man, and those kind of things. I was blessed because I found a way to channel that pain into something else, and which was music and writing.
Let me ask you this: do you think at all that your mother had a clue about anything? 'Cause I'm sure you've seen a lot of the TV shows,
Yeah.
TV shows, and true stories of other people to where, and even stuff that's just happening now, like a little 3-year-old was just murdered by the boyfriend or the dad or whatever, and the mom stood there and basically participated. Where you know that, not necessarily say they participate, but you know, we grew up in black family. Like you say, you were born in 59, I was born in 70, but in that time, in those times, you know, you were told what happens in this house stays in this house. You don't talk about our business, that's our business. And so do you think that because your mom knew you guys were in a sense raised that way, she could act as though she as long as she didn't say anything to you that she acknowledged it, then you wouldn't hold her accountable for knowing about it? Or do you think she actually knew?
You know, when I became a mother and having a daughter, and because of what has happened to me, um, not even just that. I think women, period, have a sense of something's wrong. Your child's behavior changes.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I said that I became withdrawn, and I didn't really actually have the play with the kids type of thing. I would shut my door to get away from everyone in the household,
Mm-hmm.
to either practice singing. And I don't even know if that was a practice singing. That was just something that I liked, and it made me forget where I was at and go into a different type of imaginative place for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So if she, as when I think about it, I think she may have that intuition, but she didn't have in the household proof because I didn't come and say it.
Okay.
And then I don't know if she really want me to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if she had the inklings to know the truth, because she was in love with him.
Mm.
In love with him. And it was like her world was his world. And I saw how unhappy my mother was when she separated from my dad. And I just endure the things that was going on because I wanted her to stay happy. And I think that developed up a sense of, always trying to help others, sacrifice yourself. I got pretty good at that. So I would go without many times to have someone smile. Now, if that's good or not, because you still have to look out for yourself as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't learn that. That's one I didn't learn to love me. I learned to love my surroundings, my mother, my brother. I wanted to make sure he was safe.
Well, in my studies and learning to not necessarily be a therapist, but to coach people, and learning to listen, and then as well as sitting with a coach myself and talking about, I realized, because I'm guilty of the same thing. I realized that is the personality that you develop because your childhood has basically told you that you're not important. Because bad things are happening to you and nobody is acknowledging them. Nobody is doing anything to fix them. So I can't be important, but everybody else is. And so you kind of move forward in life, always looking to help and be there and fix and be what everybody else needs. And then you're not being what you need for yourself, nor are you realizing that just like when you were a child, now as an adult, you really don't have too many people that are there for you as well. And sometimes when people do come in and try to be, genuinely there for you, you're questioning whether or not it's real. whether or not they really care about you like they're saying, so much so that sometimes, you push them off. It affects your relationships. I mean, all kinds of things. So I'm going to charge you the same way I've been trying to charge myself, to accept and know that you, me, all of us are deserving so much of so much love, happiness, and peace. And you have to put you first. You can't be any good for somebody else if you ain't good for yourself.
Absolutely.
You can try, and you can mask it, and people gonna take and take and take as much as they can, but they can't take from a dry well. And
Yes.
if you're emotionally dry, you can do the physical things, give money here or be there and cheer on and support, but you can't emotionally be there for somebody if you're not emotionally there for yourself. And that's just something we created by keeping our mouth, in a sense, keeping your mouth closed or never. Because, like for me, when I told, yes, I told, but nothing truly happened outside of we stopped going to that place again. It was kind of, in a sense, said to me that it possibly wasn't true, because I had two cousins who were the same age, who they actually lived there, who they actually have been around this person for years, and they never said anything. So why are they going to decide in their mind? Why are they going to decide when you come, to have something happen? Well, of course, I just said something then. It stopped. We later find out when my cousins are like 29 and 30, they finally tell that this same person had been bothering them for years and doing much more than what had happened to me in that one instance.
But here's the thing about that. As I found out I was adopted, so automatically I accepted that. Well, now I understand why those things were happening to me. I felt that I was not important. Even, my own biological mother didn't even want me. So, I mean, I was just damaged goods.
So you reached out to her, and she.
Well, I didn't really actually find her till I was in my 50s.
Oh wow.
I found out I was 36. I found out I was adopted at 36. But I actually did not find her. I'm sorry. I didn't actually find her till about 5 or 6 years ago. So during that time, the 36 till for 10 years, I was on a serious I want to say a serious decline of negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I was worthy of anything. My mother didn't want me. You know, I deserved everything that would happen to me. And this is what was going on in my mind. And then it took several. I'm going to tell you how God works. God will send people in your life that will let you know that this is not true. Those negative thoughts was planted, so they took roots because I'm already destroyed from finding out I'm adopted. I felt like I was a joke. Every family member laughing at me, like that movie from Carrie. Everybody gonna laugh at you. Yeah, that's what I was feeling. I felt that I thought I came from this, but I came from something that I thought was terrible. How could somebody would want to get? Matter of fact, I was born May the 10th, 1959, which was on Mother's Day. How could this woman give me up on her birthday, on her Mother's Day gifts? But I'm going to tell you, at 36 years old, if I would have found her, I would have let her have it. I wouldn't have nothing to do with her. But age and time God really worked with me, because time did as well, to allow me to mature and allow me to see things, a little bit different, instead of why, and start looking. We all have done things in our lives that we may not be proud of, or what we may think at that particular time. She was 20 years old, by the way, when she gave birth to me. A 20-year-old mind. She's from Louisiana, and she comes here to be a singer.
Oh, she sang too.
She's a jazz vocalist.
So she gave you a gift.
Yeah.
Well, two gifts: gift of life and gift of singing.
Yes, and she placed me in a home, and I believe that my presence to my mother, Queen, I was definitely a gift to her, because she could not have children.
Yeah.
And her life, she was feeling, at that time, as a woman that can't have children, back in those days, you're like, that's taboo. And the love that she wanted to have for a child. And I think I was placed there for a reason. I'm not saying that I was placed there to endure the things that I have, but I think along the course, those were to help me become the person that I am. I end up, my dad, before he passed away, we end up had the most wonderful, wonderful relationship. In the midst of all that, and I know there's some things that...
Is this your biological dad, or is it your first adopted dad?
No, my adopted dad.
Okay, but your mom's first basic husband. Now, I'm going to ask you something. Like I said, if you don't feel comfortable answering it, I hear you, really giving, and your mother, your adopted mom, just her kudos for being who she was to you, and then also understanding how being barren, in a sense, as they say back in the day, could affect her, in a sense, mentally, in regards to how she looks and feels about herself, which could be in looking for love in a child, looking for love in a man, looking for love from other people. Did you at all have any anger with her? Did you ever get to express it, or did you suppress it in regards to feeling like you knew she knew what was going on with your stepfather, and loving him so much that she never basically, in a sense, protected you from something that was going wrong?
I never addressed it to her. And even to the point when I found out I was adopted, remember, she passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So, this was my thoughts that I was possibly, that she knew after she passed, just thinking as a woman, and just thinking about the situation in hand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite sure there was some other things that was going on that I did not know about,
mm-hmm.
that she might have already heard about, and possibly that her daughter, speaking of myself,
mm-hmm.
might be in harm's way. I'm just thinking that because, a pedophile don't just start.
Right.
I don't think I was his first.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I was his first, I know for sure I was not his last.
Right.
And there may have been people while I was younger that this might have happened to, but that wasn't dressed, and that might have been clothes in the closet. Because the same person actually went to the point of touching his own sisters.
Oh, wow.
This how deep it is. He had two younger sisters that I'm speaking of, mm-hmm. that are adults now. I didn't find out until they expressed it to me before he died, when he was sick. But along the way between there being maybe, if he's 15 years younger, and they were younger than me, they might have been 17 years younger than me. There was other sisters in between that was closer to his age that they may have kept it under the closet.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I believe that there were things that may have occurred that my mother might have known about, but didn't come to me and say, has he ever touched,
so,
or anything like that. And I believe that if I believe that she wanted to, now this is just my thought. I believe she wanted to, but she was afraid of the answer.
So,
Wrong, but
knowing that you think that, and now we're gonna fast forward to you now having your own daughter and son, because I would just tell you, I've actually dated guys, and if we even know, just listening to the whole story about, with R. Kelly and why R. Kelly's the way he is, molestation happens on both ends. Women molest boys, men molest boys, men molest girls, and girls and women molest other girls. How did you choose to parent, having, first of all, the experience of being adopted? Did your parenting change when you found out you were adopted? And how did the molestation, in a sense, affect how you did with your own children?
Well, going for the molestation, I'm going to say this. My kids could not stay at other people's homes. My home was open for kids to come there, but they could not spend the night at no one's house, or no relatives or any of that sort. They was always around my mother.
Until you met me.
Yeah. and one time she wanted to go with you, I'm like, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
So, that was just my fear, because I knew I couldn't see, I couldn't monitor. I was really hard on Shantae, not because she was, a mischievous young lady, but I just wanted that was my protection.
She was a little mischievous too.
Yeah, but she was sneaking. Because when she come home, she had a different. It was like when she leave home, she had that other personality. But I had to learn something too. I had to kind of loosen that chain a little bit. I was kind of a little too holding on her, and that was only because I was using what had happened to me.
Yeah. And at that time, you hadn't even dealt with it or told anybody, right?
Nope, not at all. Not at all.
But you did have the talk with both of them in regards to if anybody touches you, if anybody does anything.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I did the same with my daughter. I think she was 2 years old.
Absolutely. I told them that if anybody, you can even sense, even at a 6-year-old, when that first incident happened, because I could replay it back. That it's something that is not right. You can feel it. I don't know what it is, but I know that wasn't supposed to happen to me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because nobody else is. First of all, nobody else is doing it to you, and this person isn't telling anybody that they're doing it. So if it was the right thing that should be happening, it wouldn't be a secret. Absolutely. And it doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel good. You don't even know at that age what your little body is about. You know what I'm saying? And it's not a good feeling at all. Like I really say, unfortunately, and even when I've dated, I've only had maybe 3 serious relationships in my life, and I am 48. And in my encounters, I tell them, in the door, like, this initial situation is probably not going to be the best for you, because I emotionally have to get where I need to get to make myself physically be relaxed and comfortable. Because here I am still, I done had a daughter, everything. I go to my annual appointments, and my doctor knows to get the speculum for a child, and to talk me through the exam. Because to this day, even though I have been vocal, even though I immediately told, it still affects me. I'm going to say, I'm saying it subconsciously, I guess, or something, because I try to tell myself, like, relax, it's okay, you want to be here. But my body be on a whole different, plane. And I think in regards to relationships, I always tell people, my friends laugh, and I always say, because I got the gift of goodbye. And it's because soon as something go wrong, I'm like, peace, is over, and I'm okay. But I think that is the fact that I emotionally shut down when I was young, and I've just learned how to master that, and I've learned how to not connect relationships to sex. And I think so many women connect the relationship and why they want to be in it to the sex just as much as the emotional tie. And for me, when the emotions ain't right, I'm done. I don't care. We could have been having sex every day, and it, whatever. I'll be honest. Like, it's not even something that to this day I do it, but and people and my friends will tell you, I'm based on my religion. When I chose, I go years and years, and I'm absolutely fine. And I know it's because of that experience as a child that made me just not like, in a sense, that physical interaction.
Yeah, I believe that because when I married the children's father, that was part of one of the reasons why we did get a divorce. Um, um, Besides his infidelity, but as you get older, you start to realize, instead of you pointing the finger, you, my contribution was that I just felt like sex was overrated, and I'm a young mother and a young wife, and in our 20s, and of course he's a young man that has a wife that's supposed to, quote, fulfill that desire for him, but because I didn't really think it was really that important. I read somewhere sex was only for actually to have children. That's it. That's all. After that, it's not really that important to me. Being that I had my son and I wanted my daughter, I spaced them exactly how I wanted it to go, 2.5 years exactly. After I had a boy and a girl, wasn't really nothing else for me to have.
I'm going to ask you this, because you're in a sense, a lot like me. Do you think, too, the fact that you had that experience that you could not control and you had no control over, that you tried to control everything else moving forward in your life, especially when you became an adult?
Absolutely.
And it's not until you talk about stuff that you like kind of realize, like, oh, that may be why. Because I'm saying, I planned my door, everything that happened, I planned it out, and I do believe and think that it's because when you're young, you experience stuff that, the grown folks, either put you through or send you through, and you just had to kind of roll with it. That once you become the grown person, you are like, we're going to go here. Y'all going to do this. You know what I'm saying? And it's just all, and if somebody don't fall in line with your plan or your structure, you speak up now. You don't let nobody walk over you now.
Yes, like I speak with, I talk with my biological biological mother. Her name is Doris.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a problem holding my tongue. Out of it, I do have three beautiful sisters.
Okay.
We look just alike.
Really?
So that helped with the identity. See, when I found out I was adopted, that was the other part. I already felt as a kid with my cousins and aunts, and I would look at them and I'm like, why I don't have big boobs? Why?
That's what
Why
you was
I don't?
looking at, the boobs.
Why they were women
Voluptuous.
that was voluptuous. Is that how you say that word?
Voluptuous.
Yes. And I was that little skinny, straight up and down kid, and I'm looking at them like, why I don't look like them? All the time, you know. Uh, so there was a time as a kid that I would take and look at my mother or look at her sisters and my cousins, and I try to find something similarity,
Mm-hmm.
you know, something I could feel or connect with. Either I look like you or we got the same type of toes or
Right.
something like that. Nothing. When I met my sisters, OMG. I noticed that our feet, our toes was the same. Our smiles we have. When you look at them, you got that connection. You feel you feel that a part of you. When you look at that person, she's a part of you, and I'm a part of her. You know, I
Did
didn't
did
get
did
that.
your mom have them later on in life and keep them, or were they all adopted as well?
Everyone was adopted.
And did they know that they were adopted from the beginning, or and okay.
No, they all found out when I found out. So now you know, now I'm going through my brother's birth certificate,
Mm-hmm.
same way it was written, you know. So like I said, I had a cousin that came over, and she told me the story, and she said that all three, it was two boys, but I told you one of them was returned back to his mother
Mm-hmm.
before the adoption was approved. And my brother Sherwood, he came a little later. He's actually 6 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
That was the reason why I didn't want to have children so spaced
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted them to grow up close.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not watching, Shantae watching.
Mm-hmm.
If Shantae's not watching, Quincy watching.
Right.
I wanted them to grow up close.
Right. Right. Well, look, we ain't realized we've been talking for almost an hour. I'm
Oh
gonna,
wow.
yes, I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna say because what I always try to tell people when they come on the show. Now the weekly wind down unplugged, we're gonna do a lot more remote. When you get in town next time, we'll probably come back and pick up from where we started. But I do want to ask: do you feel like um, having this conversation, doing this, what we've done thus far, has it helped you in any way? Just feeling better on the inside, feeling like, I always say sometimes we just carrying, it's like you can't holding that stuff on the inside, and it's you holding it hostage, and it's holding you hostage. So does it feel like at all like that maybe a weight has been lifted? You can go on throughout your day just feeling like something has been lifted off of you. You're not first of all worried about what nobody else thinks about you sharing your truth. That was my goal for making sure that I brought you on and talked to you today. So I just want to ask, what was your experience like being on the weekly wind down on Club?
To answer that question, first of all, it's an honor to be on your show. And yes, it's fear as well as feeling a relief.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you still have that fear because um,
If somebody see this, now you got to worry about what they're gonna say.
so much, a little bit, but just a little bit. But I'm just hoping that whoever does deal with, other than my family member,
Well, that's what I'm talking
family
about. We
that
know other
a
folks.
younger person who may experience that, they can feel that there wasn't alone, because a lot of time we carried that weight for so long by ourselves, not telling anyone. So
True, true, true.
it's boiling, it's stirring. I mean, you creating a big pot of unassured, um, guilt. You start to feel if you were the reason.
Right.
And I had to learn that at my age, 60 years old, that I was just in the circumstances that I could not control, and I had to learn how to deal with it the best way I could.
And you're choosing not to, like you said, as well as myself, not to be a victim. Like I always say, you can't control the hand that you're dealt, but you can control how you play it. When you
Absolutely.
when you know better, and as a child, a lot of times you don't know better. That's why I'm hoping. I try to do these shows. I know a lot of times people like, oh, still, especially in the black family, oh, I don't know, this might be a little too deep for my kid, my 10-year old, or my this is nothing is never too deep in this world, especially right now. This world is losing its mind. You need to talk to your children really as soon as they can understand what you're saying, which is usually about 1 or 2 years old. You need to tell them and let them know, like I told my daughter, you are not afraid of anybody but me. And if anybody touches you, if anybody does anything to you that you feel uncomfortable about, you come and tell me. Especially in your private area, we used to call it your monkey. But if they touch you in any of those areas, and you let me do the research and investigation and determine what was good, what it really was. But don't ever, you have to. And if you are somebody, if you are young, even if you may not be a kid, you could be an adult who somebody has touched you when you said no. Somebody has taken something from you when you said, do not hold it in. Tell somebody. Tell somebody that you feel safe with. Tell, definitely, for me, you don't know the police. So you could just call them and call 911 and tell them exactly what's going on. Don't fear what your family is going to say, who's going to be mad with you because you did what's best for you. If they
I will agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Going forward now, that's what I want to tell viewers. Just like what you just said, do not hold that in. Say something. Find, if you can't confide in your parents or a close family member, if you have to, a counselor at school
Mhm.
that you feel that's comfortable, because we're afraid, we're scared, we play out what we think is going to happen. Well, we tell this person this is going to happen, that's going to happen, we'll be taken out the house, blah blah,
Mhm.
but you don't know. The first thing is to tell someone.
Mhm. Yes.
You have to be strong enough, but I know it's, anyone that's listening, um, don't be afraid to not to say something
Mhm.
at all.
It's and I'm gonna in the comments description on the show. I'm going to definitely put a link or phone number for sexual abuse hotline, child abuse hotline, as well as a hotline for suicide help, because a lot of those things and holding those things in affect us emotionally. And there are people who, like you said, because they went to prostitution or drugs and things like that, their mental health is not right because they never were allowed or never shared what was wrong being done to them and tearing them up on the inside. And sometimes it gets so bad that they do, end up committing suicide. So I'm definitely going to put that in the description. I am going to thank you so much, Miss Shawn, for
So
joining me today. I'm going to ask now, and if you'd be open to coming back sometime within the summer, and we can kind of do a part two, because there are some things, I wanted to definitely, because I'm going to say this before I even end it. I definitely We want to share, we want to grow, we want to deal with things, but I want to for you to tell as quick as you can how you've turned that tragedy into triumph in your life in this moment.
Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
will.
Okay, so what's going on good for you right now?
Actually, um, I got married about 10 years ago to a
Okay.
wonderful and understanding man who has walked that walk, not the molestation, but the adoption
Okay.
part, because he was involved um, with my travels of finding out
Okay.
who my parents was. Along the way, there was a few stones thrown in. This is your daddy. This is your mama.
Mm-hmm.
Which was not true at all.
Okay.
Um, and of course, he's never ever experienced nothing like that in his life.
Okay.
So he was just as very shocked, and he lets me know that I'm very strong. Um,
And loved.
yes, and love. You know, and we also, of course, we owned a business together. So I learned how to trust, because I had that problem. We can talk about that on the next
On part two.
segment.
Right.
So I learned how to be able to trust
Okay.
um, in our marriage, and him. He's actually my best friend,
Yeah, I can attest to
and
that.
that makes it, I mean, ultimately wonderful, And I'm back singing periodically. I just
All
returned
right.
back from Germany,
Okay.
performing for 2 weeks, and looking forward to what's coming in every day. There's something wonderful. How I look when I wake up, I expect
Great,
something wonderful
great
to
things to
happen
happen. And
every day.
that's and despite you losing your granddaughter some months ago, that your kids are doing well, your other grandchildren are doing well. So like I said, I always like to end an episode on a good note, even though we're talking about, things unplugged and things that have formed our testimony, because we know without a test, there is no testimony. But we want to always give the fact, that testimony and thanking God for carrying us and covering us through those circumstances to get us to this point. But our whole point of sharing is to, hopefully help somebody else who watches,
Absolutely.
not hold in, and be able to understand that you can take all negative circumstances and turn them into
Turn
something
it to the
positive,
positive.
yep, in
Yeah.
your life. So again, Miss Shawn, thank you so much
Oh, you're
for
so
joining
welcome.
me. I'm gonna see you when? I'm gonna see you soon,
Yes.
in person. And
Yes.
then we're gonna see. Hopefully, you get to come in where I'm at in July, and we can do a part two with you actually on the set with me. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
God bless you. Thank you again so much for joining me. I love you. I truly hope that the dialogue has helped you. Now you go on and enjoy the rest of your day. You look real cute, just so you know too.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for joining us on the weekly wind down Unplugged. God bless you. Okay. All
Okay.
right. Bye bye.
See you.
Love you.
Bye bye.
All righty. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of the weekly wind down Unplugged. I hope that the episode did for you what it was intended to do, which is tell you some things to first of all look at in your life, look at in your children's lives. Um, have open dialogue with your children. If you are someone who has experienced any of the things that we've talked about, understand that you can't free yourself until you free it. So you need to talk to someone. If it's not your family member, a friend, a therapist, you need to get a therapist. Um, you need to talk to someone and figure out how to get over, but get past that circumstance, because if we dwell in the past, we never will be able to enjoy the future. Okay, so good again. Thank you so much for tuning in to this first episode of the Weekly Wind Down Unplugged. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that you can be alerted to the next time that we're doing the Weekly Wind Down Unplugged or the Weekly Wind Down Around Town. And if you are enjoying or liking my beautiful t-shirt, it is available on the Monique Je CEO Facebook page. It is what I call the affirmation tee. And it's positive affirmations. I say wear them on your chest, wear them so when you feel how you feel about yourself, as well as when people see it, it'll make them smile and understand that they should have positive thoughts about themselves as well. Lastly, please head on over to my personal YouTube channel. Well, not personal, it is my personality YouTube channel. It is a blog channel. I'll talk about a whole different set of things than what's on the Weekly Wind Down Unplugged. This is a talk show. It is Monique Je. Go head on over, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on that as well. God bless you. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day, rest of the evening, whenever you're watching this. And understand and remember to always remain in peace, at peace, and not in pieces. God bless you. Have a good one.